So this week I had intended to make a video demonstrating painting takeoffs for the exterior of a high-rise building. But I felt like talking about an important topic which affects painting contractors often. Do you ever tell your painters to work faster in order to meet a deadline? And is that a good idea? Because there is a difference between working faster and working efficiently. Now I have made some notes over here on my laptop, so I'm going to be referring to them every now and then. So please excuse me if I take my eyes off the camera here. So let's define fast versus efficient. I don't like to copy other people's definitions, so I'll just define this very simply. Fast just means speed. Fast means working in a frantic manner or trying to work in a frantic manner. That's simply what fast is. Example, driving fast. So, in the last 15 years or so, I've driven about 500,000 kilometers, and I've seen people's vehicles in the ditch, and I've seen vehicles all smashed up. And most of the time, those vehicles are smashed up because the drivers were driving fast. They were not efficient, they were just going fast. So it does not refer to intelligence or technique or strategy. Efficiency, on the other hand, consists of effective performance within an optimal time frame. I am saying this based on my own understanding and experiences in the painting industry as a painting contractor. To understand this better, let's look at some situations and actual examples that I've experienced. So you start a job on a Monday and you are supposed to finish by Friday according to your thinking and your scheduling and your understanding of the scope of your painting project. So what do you do when Wednesday comes and you realize that you will not be finished by Friday? If you are an inexperienced painting contractor or project manager, you might tell your painters, work faster. But there are disadvantages of that. Now, the disadvantages of telling your painters to work fast are as follows, according to my experiences. I have about 5 or so. Now, there could be more. First, they may already be doing their best, and they will not appreciate it if you tell them, to work faster. Right? It's very simple. Callbacks, rushing through jobs leads to mistakes and misses, and you may have the customer call you on a Monday morning telling you that you missed some spots. Well, now you're already at another job site with your painter, and now you have to pull out one painter from the job site and send him to do a callback. That's just a waste of time, and the customer is not going to pay you for a callback. Number 3 is accidents. It's a bad idea to tell a painter who is spray painting exposed ceilings using a scissor lift to hurry up, and because he can bang his scissor lift onto a wall, or he can run into some other item, or he can run into another tradesman or another painter working at the job site. So this will create problems for you and make you look like a bad manager or a bad crew leader, or it may make your painters look bad when really your painters are just rushing because you told them to rush. The other one is stress-related illnesses in the near future, or burnout. Now you may think this is an exaggeration, but actually it's not. You should care about your painters because some of them may be working for you for more than just 1 or 2 years. And if you're pushing them hard, if you're telling them every time, I need you to work faster because we need to finish this job by Friday or by next Tuesday or whatever, then what happens is when you have a real genuine urgency and when you need to call them on a weekend, they will be too burnt out to show up. So sometimes I tried to avoid that. So sometimes, when Wednesday or Thursday came along and I felt like we wouldn't be able to finish our job by Friday, I'll tell my painters, look, I don't want you to rush, and I don't want you to put in long hours because you have other things to do after 5 o'clock in the evening. are you able to come on a Saturday, and maybe we can just work for half a day, put in about 4 or 5 hours, and we can finish this job without any stress. And more often than not, they agreed. Of course, I would have to pay them extra for working on a Saturday, but they found that it was better than trying to push them harder to work on weekends and work longer hours or faster on weekdays. So if you tell them to work faster all the time, you will just be burning them out. Another disadvantage is RSI, repetitive stress injury. Again, another very fancy term, but it's simply sore shoulders, sore necks or sore elbows from spraying for extended periods of time, or a sore lower back. I've experienced some of this, and you might have done that too. So if you have a really good painter and who is dedicated to working diligently for you, and you tell him, we really need to finish this exposed ceiling, for example, by tomorrow, he may cut down on his breaks that he's supposed to take, and he may cut down on his lunch break. He may shorten his lunch break or delay his lunch break by another hour or so. Some painters do that because they are tempted to finish off a certain section before going for a break. Now, if his arm or his elbow is tired and he thinks, I must finish this by today, or this section by today, then the next day your painter comes to work, his shoulder is sore, or his arm is sore, or his elbow is sore, and now whatever extra work he did the previous day is lost on the second day due to low productivity because of the pain or the repetitive stress injury. So it is an actual concern. So the last point is sometimes painters will quit working for someone who is pushing them all the time to work fast. So I'll give you an actual example. My painters didn't quit, but it's something that you can draw from. So sometimes when we were not very busy, I would take my painters to this other painting contractor's job site. Let's call him Dave. So they would work side by side with Dave's painters, and they saw that Dave's painters were, they were taking their coffee breaks, they were taking their lunch breaks, half-hour lunch breaks, and they were comparing their own performance with the other painters, and they were reporting to me, we feel that these painters are slow or whatever, and I was getting feedback from them, and I thought that if I push them very hard, they will compare themselves with the other painters, some of whom are very laid back, and there is always some risk of them shifting over to another painting contractor if the salary is the same and they don't have to work as hard or as fast. So this is something you have to keep in mind also, because your painters will be talking to other painters at job sites. So now you'll tell me, okay, you don't want us to tell our painters to work fast, so what are the solutions? Because if I'm telling you, about all these disadvantages, I have to give you some solutions also. So you can adopt some efficiencies, and that would be the solution. So what are some examples of efficiencies? Well, let's look at an operations management and human resource management angle. So what you could do is, what I used to do sometimes, you can borrow a painter from another painting contractor with whom you have a very amicable relationship. Let's say a painting contractor from whom you're getting some work. So when we were not very busy, I would take some subcontracts from another painting contractor whose business was much bigger than mine, and he was very busy. So because we had a good relationship, we did a lot of his work also, and he liked our work. And that's another reason you should have a good relationship with other painting contractors. Don't think of other painting contractors as just your competition. They are also your colleagues in the industry. So I'll give you my own example. We were painting and epoxying a large machine shop one day. So the machine shop was about 5,000 square feet. So we had to do all the grinding, the vacuuming, and then the epoxy. and then there were some walls that we also had to paint. So by the third day, I realized that the epoxy project was taking me longer and I needed to keep on schedule. So what I did is I borrowed one painter from Dave's crew. So I told Dave, why don't you lend me one of your painters, because I need these walls painted so that I can keep on schedule. And I asked him for his least experienced painters. Now, the reason I did that is, well, there are two reasons I did that. First of all, I figured that Dave would not mind lending me his least experienced painter because it wouldn't affect his project overall, schedule-wise. And the other thing is he wouldn't mind, renting his painter to me at a preferred rate. So he was billing his clients about $50 per hour for labor, and he was paying his painters about $25 or so. And I was paying my painters about $25 also per hour. So I just rented the painter from Dave for a day, and my extra cost was about $40 minus, that was the rate he charged me, $40 minus the $25 that I was paying my painters. So it only cost me an additional $15 per hour. So for an 8 to 10 hour day, I spent maybe $120 to $150 extra. So 40 minus 25 times 8 or times 10. So I could afford another $120 to $150 extra so as to keep on schedule and not pressure my painters to work fast, because that's just not a good idea. So you can afford to do that too, and you can use this technique. It's very useful to do that. The other way you can invest in efficiency is, or rather you can bring about efficiency, is you can invest in prep and planning. So I'll give you my own example. When we used to set up our job site for tenant improvements, where the flooring was not going to be changed, we used to use drop sheets, and then we would put everything on our drop sheets. And you probably do that too. But then I came up with the idea of putting poly first and then putting drop sheet on top, and then all our paint gallons or paint trays and other gear. And the reason I came up with this technique of putting poly first and then drop sheet is because the cleanup is very easy, especially when you are working on floors that have laminate floors or hardwood floors. Well, it's very evident if you have specks of paint, so it's better to use poly. And the other thing that I did is I invested 10 to 15 minutes before the startup of any project to discuss the workflow with my painters. So it's only 10 to 15 minutes, so I would discuss the workflow for the whole week in general, and then I would discuss with them what my expectations were for the day. So I would say, okay, this is what we need to do this whole week, but for today, these are the things, these are the areas that we need to finish, and we would plan out the flow of the work for that particular day. So this way, I was not overwhelming them with the whole project. I was just asking them to focus on that one day's flow of work and production. So you can invest 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the size of the work, of course, size of the project, at the beginning of the day, planning out the job and the flow of the work with your painters, instead of just letting them, start mudding the holes on the walls and so on. Everybody is going in different directions and crossing each other. It's better to allocate the different sections to the different painters. So that's another solution. Proper training is very important also. If you get your painters ticketed with the AWP platform training, which is, it used to be called EWP, Elevated Work Platforms. So if you get them trained and ticketed, you will avoid accidents and problems at job sites when they are using scissor lifts. I've seen workers using scissor lifts who are not ticketed to be on a scissor lift. That's just not a good idea. You have to spend money on training your painters, and some of them may leave you someday, but you shouldn't worry about that. So the most important, I'm just going to wrap up here. The most important thing is to instill in them a sense of efficiency rather than a sense of urgency. Because not all jobs, not all paint jobs and job tasks are urgent, you know. So working fast all the time is not necessary. I've seen some job descriptions that say fast-paced work, you know, tight deadlines and so on. And I'm wondering what the managers are expecting their employees to do. Are they expecting their employee to be on urgency mode from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. day after day after day? How does that work? Eventually the employee is just going to get burnt out, and they will start hating their job, and you don't want your painters to hate working for you. So my painters used to get to work right away because they were coming from a very production-oriented background. You know, one of them was coming from a factory, and then he'd work for other painting contractors who were always pushing them to work fast. Another painter was coming from a landscaping background, and I trained him to change his mindset from rushing to actually planning out the work and doing the work in an intelligent and efficient manner rather than just trying to rush. So it's better to be safe than sorry. It's better to be efficient than to be fast. So you have to adjust your thinking also to working smart rather than telling your painters to work fast. One more tip is making your schedule realistic. A lot of painters do best guess versus realistic scheduling. So if a job is going to take 4 to 5 days according to you, you should allocate 5 days, and you should not hope that you can just finish it in 4 days and get on to the next job. This way you're not creating an artificial urgency. Don't spend your management time at job sites helping your painters to roll some walls when you're actually supposed to be working on your business and bidding on more projects, to win more projects, so that you can keep your painters busy for the coming months. I hope I have convinced you to never tell your painters to work fast, but rather to think from an efficiency angle. So I will see you in my next video, where I'll be demonstrating painting takeoffs for an exterior of a high-rise building.